Hi friends, Susan Campfield here with SueStampfield.com. I'm really excited to share this cute card with you today. Let me pull the card in there. It's so adorable. This is the Little Love stamp set, and I've made, you can see the reflection we're getting there. I've got a window sheet inside the window, and then when you open the card up, you can see the bear's back end and then the inside of our card, which of course also shows through the window. So I'm going to just walk you through a little tutorial here today on how to make this cute card. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to flip the camera around and get it in here so that you can see what I'm doing, and I'll have my hands free. Okay, let's give that a try right there. So let me pull the card back in here, got it flipped over. So here is our card, and so what we have going here is got a couple tricks to teach you on how to do this, the window with doing an embossed piece. So I wanted to cut a circle in both this embossed piece on the front, and that's with the new Polka Dot Basics embossing folder. And I also wanted to cut the circle in the same spot in the card base. So that was a tricky part. Where do I line up that circle to make sure that they both are cut in the same spot? So let me show you the trick to get that to happen. Let's slide my tools over here so you can see. Okay, so here are my supplies. So I've got a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of Soft Sky cardstock, and then I have my card base, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I scored it at 4 1/4. So that's going to make my card. So what I want to do is I want to cut my circle in both of those pieces. While it's open here, I don't want to cut through the back, and I want to do that before I emboss. And the reason is actually the first time I tried it, I embossed first and then I cut the circle, and when I sent it through to cut the circle, when I sent it through the Big Shot, it basically smashed down my polka dots, so they were not very visible. So I decided it would be better to do it this way. So the question was, how can I get these two to stay aligned while I send them through? So what I did is I took my snail adhesive, let's slide this guy over, and I'm going to put on the back of this, I'm going to put a piece of adhesive about where that circle is going to be. So what's going to happen is that part with the adhesive is actually going to get cut out with the circle, and then I'll be able to easily separate my two pieces so that I can get them back apart and do the embossing portion. So I put a small amount, that was good 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of adhesive there, and that's going to hold them together. And now I'm going to go over here to my Big Shot. I'm just going to angle it. Oops, sorry if I whacked the camera there. I'm going to angle it just so you can see what I'm doing here. And then I've got my layering circle framelit dies. Those are right here. And I'm using this circle, which is the second largest smooth-sided circle in the set. And I'm just going to lay it near the top. It doesn't really matter. I chose to do my bear up towards the upper part of the card and leave this portion blank. You could center it if you wanted to. It's certainly personal preference. But I have that in there. I'm just going to grab my top cutting pad and send that through. There we go. And so now pop out that circle. Now what I have here is 2 circles that are actually adhered together, and I could certainly use those for another project, but I don't need those for this. And now I cut the adhesive off, so these 2 pieces are separate. So now I can send this top piece through and emboss it with the Polka Dot Basic embossing folder. So I'm going to slide these out of the way. And a little tip for you when you're storing your plates in your Big Shot, if you take your magnetic platform and you take your plates and you put them under the magnetic platform or your regular platform and just crank the whole thing through about halfway. If you just store your cutting pads that way, that will help keep them flat because that's putting weight down on the plates. Sometimes the plates tend to curl, especially if you don't flip them every time you use them. I try to be good about flipping them, but I do have a lot of classes and that doesn't always happen. So anyway, just a little tip for you. So then what I would do is I would take this piece where I cut the circle and I would put it in my Polka Dot Basic embossing folder, and I would send that through the Big Shot, and I wouldn't use the magnetic platform. I instead would use the older style platform that has the flip up tabs, or this newer style one set onto the embossing section. I wouldn't put the thin die attachment on there, and I would send that through to emboss it. So I'm not going to do that. I'm sure you know how to do basic embossing. If you don't, let me know. But I want to give you some tips. So then what you want to do after this piece is embossed, before you adhere it, you want to sandwich that window sheet in between those two pieces. So this is some window plastic, and I've got this cut. What's hiding in my envelope? It's invisible. It's a window. It's hard to see. And so I'm going to just put some glue dots, one in each corner, and I would lay that on there, and then I would put some adhesive on this and adhere that over it. And I would be careful to line up those circles, kind of like a porthole on a ship, just like that. So now let's talk about how I decorated my card. I used the A Little Wild stamp set. That stamp set has 3 adorable stamps. Here's another project that I made with those just to show you what the different images are. Of course, we have our bear. Now here's the bear done in crumb cake. The one I did on this card is white, and I tell you it's really easy coloring when you do it in white because all I had to do was add a little pink for his cheeks. And then there's also a lion in the stamp set, and then there's also this adorable little elephant. Now, when you get the stamp, it's really cool because they have both the front and back side of the critters on the stamp, and so you get both their front and back ends, which makes it really cute for a project like this. So we can do that back end on the inside, or for projects like these, where I made a little box for a Rolo, or this one I used some essential oils in there. And so I will be doing a Facebook Live next week just to show you how to make these little treat holders out of the same set. But today, so what I did is I stamped my bear. I also stamped the 3 little flowers, which are, the 3 little bees, which are one stamp, and the single flower, which is a separate stamp. And then I colored them using my watercolor pencils, which are right here. The colors that I used for my watercolor pencils were, let's see, Bermuda Bay. I used that for the flower and the bee wings. And then I used for the bee, the black and the daffodil watercolor pencils. And then I also used the daffodil to do the center of the flower. Of course, there you see it on the bee. And the black also helped fill in the bear's little nose there, because when you stamp it, it's not quite filled in, and so I wanted it more filled in for this little white bear. And then I used for the cheeks the Calypso Coral watercolor pencil, just very lightly on his cheeks, and then the Old Olive is what I did for the petals on the flower that's inside our card here. And then I used a blender pen to blend those colors together. And then when you cut out your stamp image, which you're going to do with some framelets in your Big Shot, these are the Little Love framelit dies. They match the elephant, the lion, and of course the bear. And then we have the framelit for the little bees right here, and the flower, and then there's also an edging piece in there. When you do that, you get both sides get cut out. Now this is made so that you can do a tag where you would tent it. You've got the little hook there to put it on the package. You can write your little note inside. Of course, for this project, I actually wanted to cut these apart. So let me give you a little tip on the cutting part. What I did is I just cut just straight across right between the ears. And because I'm going to have my bear's front and back end backing up to each other, and I didn't want any extra parts not lining up, I wanted them cut the same. So I backed them up before I cut anything, just like that. Took my scissors and I snipped off the little hole there for a tag, since I didn't need that for this project. And then, again, holding them together, I just trimmed out around the ear so that it would be the same on both sides. So there we go. So there you've got your front and back bear. And so once that window plastic was in there, I just attached the bear with some glue dots. And then I opened it up and I attached his back end on the inside with glue dots. And then I put the bees, when I cut those out, here, let me have my little bees fly in here. Zoom, there they go. There's 1, 2, 3. These are pretty tiny, if you can even see those. But I used the glue dots. I actually used a glue dot folded in half. Added 2 bees here. I wanted to make sure the bees showed through the window, so I was careful to do that. And then I put 1 bee on his back end there. And then, of course, we had our flower, which I also attached with a glue dot inside the card, right here. Now there's different sayings in the stamp set. I chose to use the Wild About You, but there's also Hello Honey Bear, which would have worked with this as well. And then there is a new baby type of greeting that comes in this set. So you can really use this for quite a few things. Now, I live near a community called White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and so you know, this card would be year-round for where I live, and it also would be nice for Christmas to do some White Bear Christmas greeting. And then I just added my last little embellishment here for this card was the shimmery Pool Party satin ribbon. And so again, I tied my bow and I just attached that with a glue dot. So those are some tips and tricks for doing this adorable little card. And again, I encourage you to stop back next week to my Facebook page, and I'll walk you through how to make this cute little treat holder with the same stamp set. Thanks everybody for stopping in, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.